Welcome back to JB Reviews. Today we're going to drive the 6.7 liter standard output Power Stroke and the 7.3 gas engine. In the last video I did compare these trucks and I gave you guys some of the upsides and downsides of both pickup. Today we're going to see how they perform for performance and what they return for MPG. Special shout out to Larry H. Miller, Super Ford here in Salt Lake City. If you are in the market, they actually have a nice selection of Super Duties right now. These two trucks are available. Let me know you saw the video. Let's go ahead and drive the diesel first because I have to warm it up. I didn't mention this in the last video, but another drawback to a diesel is if you live in like really cold climates, it could take a long time for these trucks to heat up. But I've been sitting in this truck for like probably like 5 minutes and it's still showing cold, so I'm gonna drive it for like a couple minutes and then we'll go ahead and get down the road. But one thing I love about diesels is the weight that they add to these trucks, and that weight does translate to a better riding truck. So let's go ahead and discuss some of the performance that these engines have, and then we'll continue the drive. Now this is obviously the most popular option in the segment because who doesn't want a diesel? Big horsepower, big torque, and with that forced induction, you're gonna always get that power you need going up steep grades. And I live out here in Utah now, and because we're so high above elevation, you do lose power every 1,000 feet you go up, so it does suck because of that. So with that being said, 475 horsepower is class leading, only to be bested by Big Brother, which is the high output Power Stroke. And this engine makes 475 horsepower at 2,600 RPMs. Like, that is insanity. 1,050 pound-feet of torque at 1,600 RPMs. That's why you diesel. Here we go.
30, 60,
It's been a while since I've driven the standard output Power Stroke, and I just did the 0 to 60, and I'll show you guys a little bit later in the video that footage because I'm gonna put them next to each other. But yeah, it did pretty good. But you have to keep in mind too, this truck is using a more highway tire, so to speak, so it's not the greatest when it comes down to launching. I can't wait to drive the gas truck because I'm willing to bet you it's probably gonna do about this. Well, I don't know, we'll see. We are high above elevation, so there's that. But again, I said it earlier and I'll say it again, the weight of these trucks, that's where it's at, guys. I think most people are going to enjoy this truck because it does feel more secure. And I've noticed that like the brakes on this truck, they're not as touchy. When I've driven a few of the gas 7.3 Ford trucks in the past, I noticed that when you hit the brakes, like, I feel like they're just a little bit more touchy. And it could be because of the weight. It could be that. So we're running about 70 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and get up to 75. I'm gonna turn the cruise control on so we can kind of maintain it. I love how Ford shows you exactly what gear you're in. We're in 10th gear. Oh wow, this truck has lane keep assist. This is an XLT. Wow. Even the high trim GMs don't have that, by the way. But yeah, we're just under 2,000, so we're probably about 1,800 RPMs maybe. That ain't bad. Oh, 65. 67, 68. 65, 66 out back. Now these trucks do have different cabs, so I'm just kind of doing that to kind of get a basis point for the noise. But we're about to be to the midpoint, so let's go ahead and check out where we are for fuel economy. Now I will admit I did reset the fuel economy after the 0 to 60 run, but I got a red light here and we have to make like 3 more stops until we get back to the dealership. So I will reset the trip on the other truck the same position. I know where I did it at, so yeah, that kind of sucks. I always do it before the 0 to 60 because that kind of helps to kind of set the stage for it. But yeah, we're at 20 MPG, guys. That is really good.
Here are the numbers on the door. This Ford F-350 did have a 331 rear. 11.2 is the gross vehicle weight rating, and it here's a payload at 3,605 pounds. Now this truck weighs about 7,595 pounds on the curb, so just keep that in mind when I show you the numbers for the gas pickup.
We just pulled back in, and I'll pretty much stop at the same spots here. So 19.8 MPG, 14.1 miles driven. Let's go ahead and jump into the gas truck. I'm basically having to do the exact same thing with the gas truck because it's cold outside. I mean, it's going up a little bit, but 55 degrees, it does take a little bit more time to heat up these engines. So before we do that 0 to 60 run, we gotta make sure they're nice and warm. But as I've said in the past, this is probably one of the best gas Super Duty HD engines in the market because they give you some options like the lower gearing out back, especially this high above elevation. And this engine has power everywhere. Like even right now, like, I mean, it took it a little bit of time of a delay right there, but it was only like halfway down. But for some people, the diesel is just overrated, especially when you think about the emissions crap. The 7.3, when it came out back in 2020, I still think to this day, it is one of the best engines on the market. They did do some updates like to the intake, for example, and this engine is not direct injection, and this engine makes 430 horsepower. Now that does come on around 5,500 RPMs, but it has 485 pound-feet of torque that comes on around 4,000. All right, here we go.
$30, $60,
the very first thing I noticed jumping into this truck is how light it is compared to the diesel. And it's not a bad thing because even though it is lighter, it's still a heavy pickup truck for the most part. And I have to admit it, I don't know why there's so much hate for gas HDs. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. This truck is quick, and it wasn't too far behind that diesel. Now again, this truck does have a little bit more all-terrain type tire compared to those Michelins on that XL model, but it handles well. I mean, it feels a little bit stiffer because this is the F-350, but they have the same suspension for the most part, so there's that. But I did notice, oh yeah, the brakes are touchier for the gas pickups. I don't know why. I don't know if the brakes are just better because there's no exhaust brake or whatever, but I mean, the brakes are definitely more touchy compared to the diesel. The RPMs are slightly higher. They're closer to like 1900 RPMs, maybe 1800. It's not a huge difference in that axle ratio. Both trucks have the same transmission, 10R140. But yeah, I'm at 75 miles an hour, and it's really, really close. As far as the gas unit goes, 63, wow. Let me get up to speed a little bit more though. About 70 right there. 66. And 63. So this is a little bit smaller cab, and it's a little bit quieter compared to the diesel. Now, if you're towing a trailer up a steep grade for 5 miles, it's gonna be screaming. So yeah, that's where the diesel really does kind of make the biggest call there. So yeah, let's just face it, the diesel still is superior, but the gas engine makes a lot more sense for most truck buyers.
And don't forget the fact that gas HDs are going to have more payload in comparison with the diesel counterparts. So this truck does have a 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating, and it is an F250 versus F350, but the payload is almost the same with that 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight. So that's why if you are needing payload, especially if you're looking at single row trucks, it may make more sense to go with a gas HD. or Super Duty?
14.6. We're still kind of coasting a little bit. Yeah, it's hard to deny that diesel, guys. So yeah, we're at 14.8 and we are stopped. All right, let's see what we do when we go back the opposite direction. Just pull back in. 14.3 miles driven, 15 MPG, and yeah, the diesel one for sure. But did it? I mean, we have to be reminded that that diesel has a $10,000 upcharge. And when you really think about it, the gas engine can tow just about the same weight, because not everybody's max towing, right? There's very few people who actually tow over 20,000 pounds. I mean, really, there's very few people who tow over 15,000 pounds for that fact. But I thought both trucks performed well. I love the heavy steering that Ford's have. The brakes were definitely touchier on the gas engine, and I've finally clarified that because it's been a long time since I've driven these trucks back to back. So yeah, brakes are a little bit more touchier, and you're gonna get better fuel economy. But again, you have to pay $10,000 more to get better fuel economy. So you have to ask yourself a question: is that worth it?